We need to talk about the teaser Hoyoverse dropped regarding the Fatuui Harbingers. After watching this video maybe 437 times, I am finally ready to offer my opinion/analysis/thoughts. My major takeaways are that 1. Signora is not dead. 2. Pierrot was talking with the Cryo Archon. 3. The chessboard leaves out the Pyro and Hydro Archons, which I believe will be used to stoke war and chaos against Liyue, Inazuma, and Mondstadt. 4. The Traveler is not accounted for in the Fatuui strategy. 5. Pantalone has an Electrovision and a Dendro Delusion. And 6. We will fight Dator's clone in Sumeru. Signora is not dead. When you think about it, we barely know anything about how life and death works in Teyvat. We know Chi-Chi survived because the Adepti imparted a portion of their strength, breathing life back into her body. Hilichurls exist, who were once Canrians, and can't seem to die except by execution. Albedo was created as a synthetic human, and Dator and Raiden's twin sister both created segments of themselves. Scaramouche and the Raiden Shogun doll. All of which have varying degrees of human nature. It would seem it would be impossible to count Signora returning out of the realm of possibility. But the most telling signs of Signora's return is within the teaser itself. First, let's take the appearance of not one but two crimson butterflies. Previously we have only seen these butterflies in battle with Signora. Specifically when she turns into the crimson, which after being encased in ice from defeat. Second, Pierre states in the beginning of the teaser that not even a pawn may be spared. For me, that being said, while Signora's butterfly lands on the pawn chess piece is enough. However, we must also consider the fact that the butterfly is even present when Signora is the only one we know that can manifest that power. Do we know if the power of those who died can manifest? I suppose it could be possible, but we have no evidence of that so far. Then there's the last line. Pierre says your final resting place will be in the old world. I think it's clear that the Fatuui want to remove the authority of Celestia, and perhaps the world without that authority resembles is what the Fatuui considers the old world. What I take from that quote is that Signora will be reborn once the Fatuui sees power from Celestia. Then she can rest finally. This leaves me pretty excited because I believe that it is possible that Signora may have an ability that allows her to cheat death. Similar to Chi-Chi and Barbara, except with some mechanic that allows it to proc more frequently. Now that sounds worth the wait. My second point is not just that the Cryo Archon is talking with Pierrot, but also it follows that the chess game is taking place separately from the funeral/cryogenic freeze of Signora. First, it would be weird if Pierrot was playing chess while the Harbingers proceed over their fallen comrade. Also, how would some of the Fatuui Harbingers feel if they knew that some of them were viewed as pawns? In addition, due to the chess piece turning white as if encased in cryo and being moved as if someone moved the piece with their mind, is very clear that the Cryo Archon is there but not shown. Especially considering you can see Pierrot reach out his hand to make his move on the board. This was very exciting to see. The story so far definitely pins the Cryo Archon as a villain, but there are also hints that the true villain of the story has yet to be seen. I believe we will eventually team up with the Cryo Archon after showing her the error of her ways. What's exciting is that it appears the Cryo Archon's power may include some sort of cryo telekinesis. I imagine running through the world of Teyvat, picking up enemies and slamming them on the ground. I look to Eula as an example of a cryo vision holder that also deals major damage from another source, which is physical DMG. I believe if the Cryo Archon has cryo telekinesis, she would be able to deal damage, say even to cryo-infused elemental creatures, by dealing physical damage to them from slamming them on the ground or manifesting some sort of physical damage ability. I for one don't assume just because a damage type is weak now it will always be weak in the future. What's more is questioning whether the Cryo Archon knew Raiden would defeat Signora. Is the Cryo Archon going to use Signora's death to stoke outrage amongst her neighboring Archon lands? Is Signora going to be used to frame Raiden Shogun, the Traveler, Zhongli, and Venti? This leads me to my next point. If you look at the chessboard, there have been several chess pieces not included on the board. I think I saw 11 black pieces that represent the Fatuui. Then there are 8 white pieces on the board with 5 white pieces off the board. Ignoring the pawns, there are 7 back row white pieces. The white pieces representing Zhongli and Venti have their gnosis encased. The white knight can be assumed to represent Raiden. Then we could assume the White Queen is the Dendro Archon. It's interesting if that is true because the Queen is the most powerful piece on the chessboard. This is because the Queen can get to anywhere on the board the easiest. The Queen can travel the board at great lengths. If you assume the Queen is the Dendro Archon and assume that there is some correlation, you could assume that perhaps the Dendro Archon has some ability to be in many places at once. Perhaps the Dendro Archon's ability is what the Fatuui are after. Look, I don't know of course, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Dendro Archon already knows the Traveler's story. If perhaps the Dendro Archon has some sort of mind control ability or ability to see into different parts of the world. If that is the case, then the Dendro Archon is a major opponent to the Fatui's plan. Perhaps the Fatuui can't sow the seeds of chaos due to the ability of the Dendro Archon to uncover the truth in our mind. I'd imagine, like Professor Xavier, the Dendro Archon probably has her power amplified by some sort of mechanism. If that mechanism is destroyed and the Archon loses her gnosis, then it would be easier to control the narrative. Especially considering that Teyvat is a land with no alternative device to communicate long distances. So it's not exactly that the Dendro Archon is the most powerful Archon, but that she holds some way to thwart the Fatuui plan directly. Then you have to consider the fact that the Hydro and Pyro Archons are not even represented on the board. It could be that the Cryo Archon has already taken them off the board due to dealings she has already had with them, or perhaps it is because she plans to put them on the board once they become useful to her. Considering that Scaramouche is attempting to achieve divine understanding, it appears that the Fatuui are up against a power they do not understand. But what we do know is that the best way to attack the authority or rule of which you have little power to face directly is to sow the seeds of chaos over their dominion. This is why I am speculating that the Hydro and Pyro Archons will be extremely hostile to the Traveler. Albeit, the Traveler is the one piece the Fatuui are not counting on. Considering the fact that the Fatuui may achieve some sort of success in Sumeru, the Traveler should make his presence felt more as an opposing force to the means the Fatuui take to enact their ultimate goal. Although it appears by looking at the chessboard that the Fatuui are in control of the situation, I think contrary to actual in-game power level, the Traveler is the strongest potential threat to the Fatuui. If they were to know this, then the Traveler would be represented by a higher level piece on the chessboard. Analyzing the chessboard, it seems at best the Traveler could be a pawn in the eyes of the Fatuui. This, I believe, is the folly of the Fatuui. But once the Traveler becomes a true threat to the Fatuui, that is when the gauntlet of challenging encounters can truly be set. Right now I believe Hoyoverse is setting the stage for the last 4 nations to be better than the first 3. I am very optimistic that Hoyoverse can pull off a fantastic story throughout the rest of the game. So what makes me especially excited? Well, I know most people have expressed that Arlecchino is the character they are most looking forward to, but for me it is Pantalone. Generally it is just because I think his laid-back style fits how I play the game. That is assuming he will be playable. However, in the video he was the only Fatuui that we can see their vision. Also, the camera pans into a very close shot off Pantalone's rings. What stood out to me was that his vision seemed to be electro, and the ring on his right hand appears to have a green hue. This leads me to believe his delusion may be Dendro. But why did we see his vision and potential delusion and not any other character? I assume because he will either be playable sooner than the other characters, or he will be featured in the story sooner than later. We have heard of Pantalone and Arlecchino in recent stories. Arlecchino we heard of in Inazuma, and Pantalone we heard of from Yelan. However, what I believe is even more apparent than that is that we should get a boss fight against one of Dator's clones. At the end of the teaser we see Dator's clone burning a tree. Well, at least Dator will be a part of the Sumeru story. At any rate, this teaser was amazing and I look forward to the future of Genshin Impact more because of it. Let me know what you think.